Thank you very much, Tim. I'm really pleased and delighted to be with you at this important conference of Forums for Cities in Transition. It's not the first time that I have spoken at a gathering like that. We were very fortunate to have the Forum for Cities in Transition in my own city of Derry, and known to others as Londonderry, several years ago. And that was a very exhilarating experience for all of us to know that people from throughout the world associated with other conflicts recognised how powerful the Irish peace process has been and how it has effectively transformed the security situation and indeed the political situation over the course of the last 20 years. I was formerly a member of the Irish Republican Army in conflict with the state. Some people would make the case that because you were associated with an armed group that doesn't qualify you to talk about peacemaking. I don't agree. I think the most important contributions to peacemaking can be made by people who were previously associated with the conflict and who were prepared to be involved in processes which would effectively bring conflict to an end. I've been part of the peace process here since its inception. I'm very proud of that. I'm very dedicated to the success of it. And I recognise the incredible journey that we have all made. I suppose in our situation, the most symbolic example of how people who were previously in conflict had the ability to come together was the way in which the Reverend Ian Paisley and I, diametrically politically opposed with different political allegiances, were prepared to come together in 2007 in the office of First and Deputy First Minister. And that was one of the highlights of my 20 years. Not alone did we have the ability to have a decent, civilised working relationship, but during the course of that year, we developed a friendship that continued until the day he died, sadly, just a few weeks ago. I went on Twitter, expressed my condolences to his family, and the last sentence on my Twitter message was that I had lost a friend. I was criticised by some for saying that. How could you say that Ian Paisley was a friend? And people, obviously in an analysis of his political career, went back through the ages of history and made their own particular analysis of Ian Paisley's career. And of course they could do the same, and some time in the future they will do the same with me. But I work on the basis that if you come into a peace process and you very importantly recognise how critical it is, how vital it is to build relationships, then if those relationships work successfully, then credit has to be given to those who make the effort. And I believe that Ian Paisley, as the primary representative of the pro-British unionist community in the north of Ireland, recognised the importance of working with me, an Irish Republican, with a completely different allegiance, to bring about a better future for all the people that we represent. So we have been through here a remarkable journey, and you have been very warmly welcomed, and rightly so, to the great city of Belfast, as many who participated in the Londonderry event were welcomed to that event also. Those two cities have changed incredibly over the course of the last 20 years. Sometimes small things can make a huge difference. And we applied for funding from the European Union to build a little bridge across the River Foyle, which traditionally down the ages divided the, if you like, pro-British Protestant community from the pro-Irish Catholic community. The bridge cost something like £17 million and was put in place just a few years ago. It stretches from Derry's Guildhall, the centre of the city, across the river to what used to be the largest military site in the northwest of Ireland. The military are gone. Our government departments control the site, and we have spent something like £30 million developing it into a shared space that all the citizens of the city can enjoy. The small bridge, you can't drive a car over it. You can't ride a motorcycle across it. You can ride a bike across it, and you can walk across it. And it's a new iconic image of our city. There was a debate in our city about what we would call this bridge. And I was interviewed by BBC Radio Foyle, and they asked me whose name should go on the bridge. And I said, well, I don't see anything wrong with calling this bridge the Peace Bridge. So it is now known as the Peace Bridge. And in a city of 108,000 people in the last 2.5 years, 2 million people have walked across that bridge. So there has been a remarkable change. The city that I come from, people are working together. It was a city in conflict in the past. It's a city that recognises that against the backdrop of the important agreements that we have made through the Good Friday Agreement, the St Andrews Agreement, the Hillsborough Agreements, and other agreements that we have made, that we have actually created an opportunity for people to fulfil their full potential. And of course, the agreements that we have made enjoy the overwhelming support of the people of Ireland, and I believe the people of Belfast, and the people of Derry, Londonderry. So it's been a remarkable journey. This city that you're in is unrecognisable from the Belfast of 20 years ago. And the principal credit, I think, for the change that has happened obviously has to come from those who had a desire for peace, who recognised that we can either be in conflict for the rest of our lives, or we can forge agreements which will change our lives and the lives of our children in a very fundamental way. And the desire for peace here was very strong. Ultimately, the political parties responded to that. All of the political parties, and sometimes at different stages of the process, contributed to the change that has occurred. But in my opinion, all of them deserve massive praise for the courage and dedication that they showed to bring about the agreements that have fundamentally changed these cities in such a positive way. Now, as we journey forward, it would also be very remiss not to recognise that the most powerful influence driving the politicians forward, driving the protagonists forward to look for new approaches, were the people themselves. The business community, the community and voluntary sector, just ordinary people leading their lives, some of them unemployed, others who were employed, all of them with children, and all of them with a huge desire to bring about an end of conflict and put in place the real opportunity that exists for everybody to move forward in a way that banishes conflict, violence, and death to the dustbin of history. And we have succeeded in doing that, and I am very proud of the role that all of the politicians and the two governments and the US administration played in what has been a remarkable success story. So the Irish peace process is held up as a beacon of hope to other conflicts throughout the world. And I am very conscious that most of the people around this table who come from other cities that have been divided with divided allegiances are looking to learn from the experiences that we have been through. And it's been a remarkable experience. So I want to wish all of you well. As Tim said in his introduction, I have, as a result of my experience in the Irish peace process, been asked to go to different conflict situations throughout the world. And when I look around at the world today, I see what's happening in Iraq, I see what's happening in Syria, I see what's happening in eastern Ukraine, I see what's happening in different countries in Africa, I see what's happening in the Middle East. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see the numbers of people who are day and daily losing their lives as a result of continuing conflict. When we go to these places, we don't go with our solution to their problem. Nobody gave us a solution to our problem. That had to come from within ourselves. But certainly what we can do when we go to places is outline the fundamentals of how agreement can be reached. The first and most important prerequisite for any successful peace process and resolution of conflict, I think, is a recognition by all sides in the conflict that that conflict can go on for a very, very long time. And a recognition on behalf of the key protagonists in that conflict to accept their responsibility as leaders to negotiate a peaceful way forward which can end the conflict and in doing so bring huge benefits to the people that they represent. If that motivation is missing, then conflict will not be resolved. If you want an example of a conflict that, in my opinion, turned out to be a total disaster, it was the situation in Sri Lanka. I went to Sri Lanka on 2 occasions at the invitation of the President of Sri Lanka and the Tamil Tigers. And I deducted from my discussions with the Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tigers that neither of the two sides had a desire to sit down and negotiate a way forward. And so the failure to negotiate a way forward had catastrophic consequences for tens of thousands of people, particularly in the northeast of Sri Lanka. I was at Nelson Mandela's funeral in December of last year in South Africa. The world leaders were all there, as was President Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka. I couldn't even bring myself to speak to him. I felt so angry. So I think from our perspective, as we are presently engaged in very important talks to overcome challenges associated with our conflict, things like how we deal with the past, how we deal with the issue of parades, how we deal with the issue of flags, symbols, and identity. These represent huge challenges that desperately require a resolution. I am absolutely dedicated and committed to finding that resolution. I'm very proud to be associated successfully with the agreements that have been made, as I believe are other politicians. So we need to redouble our efforts to find solutions. And of course, the situation is complicated by, and I'm sure that it'll not come as a secret to anybody else around this table, the very severe financial challenges that many administrations throughout the Western world and indeed further afield face. So I'm delighted to be here with you this morning. I could talk about the journey that we have been through for a very, very long time. I'm going to resist doing that, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to, if you wish, to ask whatever question you would like to ask. But I wish you well. I'm very honoured and delighted that you're here in our country, that you're here in Belfast, that you're actually seeing the huge changes that have occurred as a result of a successful peace process. And of course, I wish all of you who come at this with the same motivation as myself, in terms of recognising the importance not just of peacemaking, but the whole concept of reconciliation. Hugely important for us that the next phase of our process is a phase of reconciliation. The last thing I want to say is that I have tried in my own way to contribute to that, not just by building a relationship with Ian Paisley where he and I were effectively reconciled as a result of our journey through the peace process from 2007 until he died just a few weeks ago. But also the best example, I think, of the willingness of people to recognise the importance of reconciliation was the 3 engagements that I had with Queen Elizabeth of Britain. I had many reasons not to reach out the hand of reconciliation and friendship to her. And she had many reasons not to reach out the hand of reconciliation and friendship to me. But we did. And I think that sets an example that everybody else needs to follow. The past was a terrible place. It was a terrible place where there was conflict, division, violence, and death. I'm looking to a future of peacemaking, of reconciliation, of economic prosperity, of providing a future for our young people. And I'm very pleased on 3 occasions to be involved in a very symbolic act of reconciliation that I think many people in our country and throughout the world thought they would never have seen. So for me, the future is peacemaking. The future is the resolution of conflict, resolving differences, putting in place programs that can unite the community, and also the vital phase of recognising that if we are united, we are very strong, but if we are divided, we are very weak. Thank you.